What's going on, Socialites? Welcome back to another episode GPS Tracking, your podcast for everything you need to know about the global Pokemon Society. I think we're on episode 59. I could be wrong. I forget to
I don't
check.
keep track of the numbers.
I think it's 59. But
I watch,
yeah.
I listen, I don't track the numbers.
Do you watch the ones that you're in?
Of course I do. I
There
love
you go.
myself. Have you not noticed
you conceited bastard.
Do you not realize that I love myself? I think anyone watching this podcast knows.
Yeah, it's a lot. That's okay. I was once there too, and then I got smacked down a bit, but sometimes it shows up again. But anyway, so guys, we're knee deep in the muck of the playoffs. Season 5 starting to wind down. The picture of everything starting to be clear. I just wanted to give another shout out here because it seemed like last time I checked anyway, not a lot of people had voted yet. But I'm going to link the MVP voting for the season down below once again on this podcast. So if you didn't vote last week, this will be your last week to vote. On the next podcast, we will announce.
I didn't vote. I forgot. Whoops.
Okay, whoops. Well, don't be like Anthony and actually click on this one here so you can cast your vote. We got 4 really good finalists. So, yeah, with that little PSA out of the way, on today's podcast, I'm joined by Anthony, head coach of the Pittsburgh Polteageist. What's going on, Anthony?
Woo! Go Pittsburgh. I'm doing well. Not too bad, Ryan. How about yourself?
There you go. There you go. Well, I'm sure you're doing very well. And because you're doing very well, I'm doing very well. But we'll get to that more towards the latter half of the podcast. So first off, Anthony and I, we're going to do some rankings here. We do this at the start of every season. We do it at the end of every season. We rank all the teams, S, A, B, C, D, etc., to see where we predicted them and then where they actually kind of ended up at the end of the season. So with that said, let's take a look at where we had them at the start of the season first, so everybody gets a refresher here. All right. So if you see this, we had a pretty balanced lineup here, Anthony, from when we first ranked everything. So we'll go through real quick. In the S ranking, we had Denver. We had your Pittsburgh Polteageist, Anthony.
Heyo.
And we had the Oklahoma Thundurus. In the A rankings, we had your Boston Braviaries, the Worcester Delibirds, the Waco Scissors, and the Driftvale City Dragapults. Then going down to the B teams, these teams we thought were going to be more of like average. We got Tokyo Togekiss, the LA Kinglers, and the Black City Zekrom. Rounding out the below average teams from our predictions, we had PSG, Paris Saint-Germignon, the Lavender Town Gengars, Vero Beach Volcarona, and the Charm City Charizards. And then our D teams, the teams that we thought everybody would, kind of push aside. We had the Mighty Psyducks and the El Paso Electros. So, Anthony, looking back on this now, don't tell me like what you think going forward, but preseason, what do you think of these rankings?
So, I mean, preseason, not talking about what we've seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was a pretty accurate list, at least from what I saw from the teams. I think the biggest one that was like kind of sticking out to me now, remembering from the first podcast, was like Tokyo at the top of B. I think we were all kind of like maybe A, maybe B. You know what I mean? Like That was the only one I think we wanted to be maybe a little bit higher. But other than that, I mean, based on the preseason teams, I would say I think we hit it pretty on home.
Yeah. So I agree with that. I mean, obviously we had a bunch of us on looking at that. So now we got to go in and we got to decide where they all ended up. And
some are going to change. A
lot of them are going to change. We're just going to say that. So I'm just going to pull something up on my phone real quick. That way I don't have to swap between the different windows when I'm talking about something. Because I love statistics when talking about this. You are a
stats guy.
Yeah, especially the ones that I kind of like spearhead. But yeah, let's pull up our new tier list and we'll get cranking with this one. All right, so they're in alphabetical order, so I guess that's where we'll start, Anthony. Or did you want to go in a
Yeah,
certain order?
let's start from the top and take it down from there. I think that's a good way.
All right, so still using their old logo because I didn't re-upload their updated logo, but we got the Black City Zekrom. So preseason, we had them as a B rank. We had them low B. We figured they would be good enough to stomp on all the C and D teams easily, just due to their hyper aggressive play style. They ended up 4-4, but they were the best in the North Division, which was your division, Anthony. So
they did beat me too.
Yeah, they beat all three of their division opponents, which is huge to win your division. And that got them the number 4 seed in the playoffs. Now, we're not going to take, obviously, it's already been a couple of rounds of playoffs, so we're not going to take in any playoff like stuff with this. But just the regular season, 4-4, they won their division. So where would you put them now, Anthony, after that?
So, okay, this is going to sound weird. So they beat me too. I still think they're about a B because looking at their, if we're looking at their strength of schedule, they definitely had a weaker schedule of teams.
Yeah, slightly below average.
Yeah. I'll be honest, spoiler when we eventually talk about my team, I definitely think my team when I played them was not at its most optimal. I was still kind of like figuring out my team. So I do think that played a factor in how our game went. But I would say, again, still like not a bad grade. I think it was a solid B team throughout the season.
Yeah.
They picked up some good things here and there. Don't get me wrong. I love some of the pickups and changes they made. Some I was a little like, but yeah.
That's something I like about Black City is they are one of the teams in the society that does like to change. Like I'm one of the teams that I like to change week to week. I like to use different Pokemon and experiment with stuff, and they're kind of in the same vein as that. They always have like the same general strategy, but they do change around a lot. I'm going to agree with the B pick. Again, kind of for the same reason that we talked about in the preseason. They just have this hyper aggressive play style that can definitely beat lower and unprepared teams. But if you can come up against them with a solid strategy, then they tend to flounder there. All right, next up we got your Boston Braviaries. Now Boston, not undefeated this season, ended 6-2, the third best season in the society. However, due to another team's insane season, they did not win the division, so they ended up being the number 5 seed in the playoffs. Still good enough for that first round bye, but the number 5 seed. Some stats for you, Anthony.
Oh, throw them out there.
So one of my favorite stats to do at the end of the season is the strength of schedule and the adjusted strength of schedule. Now, what this shows is just your opponent's win-loss differential, and then the adjusted is if you took your games out of it. So it's like, okay, how did they do against everyone who's not you? So not only did Boston have the highest strength of schedule at a 1.56. Now, the higher it is past 1, the harder it is. So remember that. Not only did they have tied for the highest strength of schedule, they had the highest differential in adjusted strength of schedule at a 1.95. So you take out Boston, everyone that they played against got
much better schedule.
Much better. Yeah. When they weren't playing Boston. So I just want to spit that knowledge at you. But why don't you tell me where you think, give me your thoughts on Boston, where you think they should go.
I mean, I'm going to put you at S because of that, but...
You're going to put me at S? No, let's talk about the 2 teams I lost against, though. I lost against the 2 teams that are, an 8-0 team and a 7-1 team. Those were my 2 losses. Do you think I deserve to be in there?
You deserve it. You deserve it. Listen.
All right. Make your case. Make your case.
I think you deserve it. I think you had a good team. I mean, you went in with a theme, and you did so fine with that team.
I struggled early, though. But.
You did. Thanks for getting rid of the torque hole. I desperately needed. But yeah, no, I think you had a good team. Again, you did the best with what Giratina was a friggin' house for you. I mean,
Yeah.
that was an excellent pickup. So yeah, I'd give you an S.
All right. Well, I would give myself an A, but since Anthony is so kind
Okay.
to put me an S, then I will agree with him for now. We'll see where the rankings kind of end up.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next, we got the Charm City Charizards. This is another one of that dirty division. That's what I'm calling your division, Anthony. The dirty division. You guys were just black eyes, broken bones, bloody noses, 3, 4, and 4 teams, 1, 3, and 5 team. Like that was the nobody wanted to win in that division.
No, it was a rough division.
Charm City, they ended up 4 and 4. Unfortunately, they kind of slipped in the latter half of the season, but they were able to squeak into the number 10 seed of the playoffs, despite that. So they were another team that kind of changed around a few things on their squad. Anthony, what are your thoughts, and where do you like Charm City?
Where did we have them before, out of curiosity?
They were a C, a low C.
Okay. Charm City. Definitely there were some big weakness teams. That's one thing I noticed when I was going to go up against them. Like literally almost their whole team was weak to grass, which obviously my team took advantage of very well. But, so definitely I would still put them at a C, I think. I think there were definitely just too many teams of weaknesses. I mean, they did have a good amount of bulk, good amount of kind of, offense, stuff like that. But there's literally 3 ground types, a rock type I'm seeing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, fighting weaknesses.
I did like when they picked up Ninetales later in the season.
Great. Yeah, that thing is way faster than I thought it was.
Yeah.
That thing is so fast.
Yeah, it gets that extra speed points compared to its cousin. But, and I'm kind of taking into their coaching here, and I don't want to rag on Zach because he knows some of the misplays he made in the season. But yeah, I think C is fine. It just never came together.
I'm not talking about coaching really. I'm more so saying like just looking at team comp. Like team comp is like I see a lot of like
I'll throw some dirt in his eye.
Weaknesses, a lot of weaknesses on this team. So a lot of shared weaknesses. So I definitely think a C is still where we sit for this.
And for strength of schedule, he had a pretty easy schedule at a 0.56. That's a 0.56.
Yeah,
and
that's
his
a really easy
adjusted
schedule.
went down. It went to a 0.51. So he played down to his competition. So I think that's deserving of a C. Like with the strength of schedule like that, if you're a competent team, you should be going like 5-3, 6-2.
Oh, absolutely.
Against something like that. All right. Next up, we got the Driftvale City Dragapults. Unfortunately, the East could not repeat and get all 4 teams into the playoffs. Cole had to be the one sitting out. He ended up 3-5, just on the outside of the playoffs. Anthony, what are your thoughts, and where do you like the Dragapults?
I believe we had them in an A team.
Yes, they were an A team, lower A.
Lower A. They made a lot of changes from like kind of looking at the schedule, looking at what they kind of had and what they kind of got into. Let's see. I mean, like I'm trying to like see how much I value the schedule at because they did have a harder. They did. We're talking we're talking stats here. They had a harder schedule, so they're 1.21. It looks like from what I'm staring at.
Yeah, it was above average for sure.
Yeah. I definitely don't think they were an A team. I think moving down to B, if not C, but
I can
definitely.
agree with B. I still look at their team.
And that's what's giving me the
think
B
it's
vibes.
I think their team is like still solid. Like there's a couple weak links. Like I don't agree with picking Mantine up for their one match against Lavender Town. There,
yeah,
I
and
felt like,
look how well that went. Got banned for a week.
But
yeah,
I can go with B, probably below Black City, just because of the overall record at the end.
I would agree with that.
All right, next up, in the preseason, we said this team was the best coming out of the gate. It's the Denver Ninetales. They struggled early in the season. They started off 0-2.
Rough, yeah.
but they were able to pull it back, and they actually ended up winning the West Division for the third season in the row, ending at 5-3 and the number 3 seed of the playoffs. So, Anthony, what are your thoughts and your position for Denver?
I mean, I still think they were an S team. You know what I mean? I think they had those kind of early shakeups. You know what I mean? But I mean, they didn't make a lot of changes to their team from what I'm seeing. You know, they got rid of, you know, I don't know if it was out of generosity or really felt like they needed the change to give Ludicolo to Lavender Town. But, you know, I think there still was a very solid team. And obviously, you know, Katie did well enough to win her division and go 5-3. I think it was just kind of those early rough starts. And then, you know, I still think it's a very solid team. Calyrex Ice is, I mean, I lost to her this season. Calyrex Ice is no freaking joke.
Yeah. I think that was the turnaround. Once she figured out the window to set Calyrex up, like that Mon just took down 3 or 4 Pokemon every match.
Oh yeah, that Pokemon is disgusting. Definitely, I think was the X tier pick of the format.
Yeah, for sure. So you said S?
Yeah, I'd say they're still in the S.
I feel like the S is going to be a little crowded, so
okay. Well, we can move things down if we need to.
All right. Next up, we got the El Paso Electros. So El Paso, they ended up 2-6 in the season. Unfortunate season for them. We had them as a D team. They were.
They didn't make many changes.
Yeah,
and their schedule kind of showed. So
they had an average schedule. Their strength of schedule was a perfect
I'm saying
one.
like their record. I mean, not schedule. So I mean, I'd say it's still a D.
Yeah, still a D. Yeah, I can put that. They had a couple like solid games, but yeah, overall, I think they tried to rely too much on Trick Room. And when you got a Pokemon like a Eternatus with 130 base speed, you probably shouldn't be like min speeding that.
No, that seems
which
terrible.
Happened a couple times. You know, it's not bad to have like a pocket of Trick Room. Like I have it on my team. Like, Denver has it on their team.
It's like doubles too. You know what I mean? Like you don't base the whole team around Trick Room. You maybe have like 2 Mon out of the 4 that are kind of Trick Room abusers, and then like you don't need the rest.
Yeah. All right. Next up, I mean, I think I know where we're gonna put the LA Kinglers here, but their strength of schedule was above average.
Here's what I'm gonna say. Like, still looking at their team, I'm gonna slightly defend our where we put them on the, you know, because obviously I was on the first podcast too, and you know our group of people putting them a little higher. Like, I think they still have like. On paper, looking at the team, you know, this is not a terrible looking team still to me. The problem, at least from watching their matches through the season too, is just like really awful mood choices and like, why do you have like special moves on your Snorlax and why do you have physical
I only
moves
said that like 10 times.
Yeah, like just a lot of like, what are you doing here kind of choices. So, you know, again, like, if we're good, like obviously we're probably putting this in D because of just like, you know, the record and how well it did. But like again, if I was
0-8
like,
for those who don't know, 0-8 winless.
Yeah,
goose egg.
Yeah, if I was just looking at a team and saying like based on not on the coaching and not on like anything else, like the record, I'd still think it would be like a higher than it would be. Where
would you put it just based on the team? Just tell me where you're feeling. C. All right.
C
so
or B.
I think you think C. I think whatever ranking you give it, based on the record, it should go down 1. So therefore, I think it should be D. If you had said B, I would have said C.
This was going. I thought it would be going in B, but yeah, I think like C. Like looking at the team, it's
you can have Albert Pujols, Derek Jeter, A-Rod, Big Poppy, Manny Ramirez, Pedro Martinez, you know, Randy Johnson. You can have all these all-star,
are these all
greats,
sports
Hall of Famers
players?
Yeah, these are all baseball players. Okay, okay. You can have Lady Gaga at a concert, Prince,
Kanye West.
Yeah,
there we go.
You can have all these guys, and they don't sell a single ticket. Guess what? The concert sucked. All right, that's what I mean.
Fair.
You can have all these greats. at the concert and no one buys a ticket, guess what? It was a flop.
Sure, I'll give it to you.
All right. Next up, we got the Lavender Town Gangars. They were another team kind of like Denver where they kind of turned their seat around. They picked up Barraskewda.
That was the big
and
pickup,
Mammoth Swine, I
absolutely.
think, as well. They picked up both of those in week 3. And they ended up going 5-3. A clutch win in the last week of the season to knock off one of the undefeated teams. And unfortunately, just based on everything else, they were only able to make the 7 seed, but still good to make the playoffs. What do you think? We had them. Where do we have them? B last time?
I think we had like C, I believe.
Oh, was it C?
But let's
Oh
be
yeah,
honest.
because they had like no
They made, I was just saying,
rain
they made
abusers,
6
right?
changes to their team.
Yeah.
They made 6 big changes, and as you just said, Barraskewda was literally MVP for them by far, and Mammoth Swine was a huge pickup. So like, they picked up some very, very, very good Pokemon. Also, they kind of learned, again, spoiler for when we get to my team, we both, kind of thought, at least I don't know about Alex's actual thinking, but I can say, partly for certain reasons, we thought maybe 5 turns of a weather was enough with like our Groudon and our Kyogre, and then just finding that was not the case. So
well, how often your Groudon died on the first turn? I thought that would have been perfect.
Listen. We'll get to me eventually. We're talking about Alex. But yeah, so I think bringing Politoed to more matches so you have more rain, definitely a lot better. So I think definitely he is an 18. I think after picking up Barraskewda and Mammoth Swine, those were the huge ones.
And he
all the
traded
other
for
changes.
Ludicolo.
Ludicolo
had
too.
Like a bunch of rain.
All the rain
so, yeah.
from his rain team, yeah.
So, all right. Next up, we got the Oklahoma Thundurus. Now, again, we're not talking playoffs, Anthony. Calm down.
I didn't say anything.
Down.
I'm not giving away
I'm
any
not saying
spoilers.
nothing either, all right? I my lips are sealed. Anyway, what can we say about Couch Pilot Games, Trevor, the Oklahoma Thundurus, 8-0, the perfect regular season. You look at their team, you've been talking a lot about changes. They made a couple changes, but nothing like huge on their end.
I said it day one in that podcast.
They were an S.
I said this is a team I am absolutely scared to play against, and that remained true for the. 8-0. I don't think we need to say much. He's clearly the S of the S tier.
Yeah.
But we all knew, that was pretty obvious from, like I said, that week 1. That's just looking at his team. It was stacked. It was very, very, very good Pokemon. Very good, coverage. Ho-Oh, an amazing legendary. Playing him in the regular season, he smoke showed me. So, it was about how I went. Yeah. So.
All right. Next, we come up to your Pittsburgh Polteageist.
No.
So, speaking of the best team, the Pittsburgh Polteageist, you ended up 4-4, Anthony, not able to get your division. You ended up as the number 8 seed in the playoffs, though, so still made the playoffs, which is key. We've kind of already alluded to this a couple times. You had a rocky first half of the season. I'm not going to say that your second half was like you smoked through everything, but you definitely learned some things. I think from that first half.
Yeah, I actually prepared the whole thing I was going to say about my team going into this. So there are 2 major things I learned about my team this season and kind of figuring it out and getting trades and stuff. The first is Groudon fucking sucks. Groudon is just I got a lot better with him. Most of the builds I was seeing on Smogon and things were hyper offensive Groudon, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna build hyper offensive Groudon. Terrible idea, terrible Pokemon. Don't do that, especially if you don't have an item to use with it. So that was where Groudon started. Also, again, not trying to say I was biased by anybody in the podcast or anything, but everyone's like, oh, you don't need 5 turns of Sun will be fine. You don't need 8 turns of Sun. Not having the rock setter, he's fine. So my first few games, I'm like, okay, Groudon's all I need. I'm not going to bring, I think I had 9 tails. I'm not going to bring 9 tails because, someone's still Forkle. But, I was like, we'll see how it goes. So yeah, Groudon, pretty lackluster until, eventually I built a defensive one. played it a lot smarter. You know, a lot of people just brought random grass knot on random Pokemon that would just take Groudon out. You know, I think that's the biggest problem with Groudon is just like he's so susceptible to random Pokemon. That learn grass knot. It has no special bulk at all, even if you try to build it that way. So Groudon, big problem. The other big problem on my team was definitely picking up Cobalion was huge. I had no bulk in my it was all sweepers, which I acknowledge. Politoed wasn't getting there. Again, something that as you remember from kicking my ass, freeze drying my entire team was pretty brutal.
You picked up Cobalion after that, and I was like, a Pokemon that's not weak to ice? What the hell?
Yeah, right. And picked up Alcremie later because I also noticed I had a pretty big special defensive, nothing to stop special defensive threats. So overall, I'd say I'm about an A team now that I've made it, you know what I mean? Where I want to be. I think I need to learn a lot.
I think your team is still solid. I'm gonna put you under Lavender Town just because I think in Rain versus Sun, I think Rain does have the edge on that,
which is fair. I will take that. But I think it took me a while to learn my team this season. And Groudon, don't pick Groudon for your legendary Pokemon. Yeah,
and for strength of the schedule, you did have a pretty tough strength of the schedule at a 1.29, so it was up there. So to get out of it at 4-4, that's.
I mean, I played every one of the S teams. Looking at it right now, played every one of them. So pretty good schedule.
All right, next up we got Paris Saint-Germignon, the PSG winners of the East Division. They ended up 7-1. Only losing in that last week, as we alluded to the Lavender Town Gengars.
Lieutenant Surge did it.
Surge did it, and he really didn't make too many changes. Only one change.
Literally one, yeah.
So what are your thoughts on PSG?
So here's the thing. So PSG went 7-1. We had him at a C, I think, because we looked at the whole team. But one thing I think I noticed is pretty much every single game PSG brought the same set. There was no changing. So I think based on those,
he brought Flareon a couple times.
But for the most part, it was the same six. So I mean, obviously we're gonna put him higher because of again, the schedule was better. I don't think they still have looking at the team an S team. I think they're an A. Maybe even we'll say higher than me and Alex, but to me, it's an A-looking team, even though they did have a very, very good week. I didn't even look at their strength of schedule on that one, though.
Their strength of schedule was low.
Oh, really low?
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe that
0.68.
I mean, maybe that also influences how well the 7-1 was from the team.
And I also think about a couple of their wins, and again, I'm not saying too much negative here. Trying to be a benevolent commissioner. We remember, I mean, Weavile's clutch. He's in the MVP running for a reason, but there were 2 games where PSG only won because of the way Life Orb recoil interacts, everything. So they were super close games.
And they literally almost lost to LA. That was one of those, double knockout wins.
I can agree with A. I can definitely see the points that you're making. Their record is fearsome. We'll have to see how they do in the playoffs. Because again, you look at that strength of schedule, you're like, okay, it's not the toughest.
Yeah, I mean, looking at it now, I'm staring at their schedule, and they played a lot of the easier teams, the weaker scheduled teams,
Yeah, and me.
Well, you and Alex are the 2 rough ones on their schedule, and the rest were pretty low winning teams.
All right, next we got the mighty Psyducks. Ollie. Ollie had a pretty tough schedule overall. He went up against a lot of heavy hitters this season. He ended up 2-6, which is unfortunate because that includes a
No, he lost one. Yeah, forfeit.
He was the only team that had to forfeit 1 week, so that is unfortunate. What are your thoughts, and where do you like the Psyducks here?
I mean, we had Psyducks, I believe, at E before.
Yeah, they were bottom.
I mean,
they did make
the record.
a couple
The
changes.
record. I was to say the record doesn't help with kind of moving them out of the D block. They did make good changes. They got rid of, like we talked about, Redigon. Like, why was that on in there at all? Like, and Neuvern, definitely less of that dragon. I think we talked about that. It was like all like Lance dragon team.
Yeah.
So I like the changes they made. I still don't think we could. Maybe the top of D. I don't think we could kind of kick him out of D just because of that record. And
yeah. I was hoping Lugia would do more for them, and Urshifu. I was expecting more too, but those Pokemon just didn't really pan out for them. I thought Lugia was going to be a really nice X tier. All right, next we got the Tokyo Polteageist. This might be, last season for Tokyo fans, it was a tale of two seasons. Tokyo was like 0-4 at one point, and then they turn around, they have 3-5, screen to the playoffs, even
the
won
Melmetal
first round.
season.
Yeah, the Melmetal season. Melmetal's a big boy. This is kind of like the opposite of that. They started off 5-0, but then lost their next 3. They still ended up as the 6th seed, getting a bye week into the playoffs. But what are your thoughts on Tokyo, Anthony?
I mean, I definitely think they, like I said, we were between like A and B before.
Yeah.
I think they're definitely an A team, at the minimum. They didn't make many changes. I'd say A, solid A. Still, moving them up one.
This
tier.
might be one that I kind of argue against you with here.
Feel free, argue with me.
Because I'm looking at their, again, I
didn't even look at the strength of schedule. I'm now looking at it. I know where you're going.
0.56.
Yeah. Ooh, and their first 5 wins were all. The 5 wins are.
Yeah, they only played one team that was above 500, and they lost to that team.
Yeah, that's okay. I didn't look at
that. I still don't like the Excadrill and Bulu. It's a bad combo, Excadrill and Bulu, which is their S and A tier.
Maybe I feel better about the B. You're right. I didn't look at the 5 wins, because now that I'm looking at it now, it's like, ooh, that was 5. Not so
I
great.
liked them in the A team before the season, and I know not like much really changed, but I am just kind of like looking at the overall schedule.
Well, I remember we spent a lot of time talking about that Bulu and Excadrill, kind of like what's going on there.
And it did kind of cost them a little bit in one of their games. I remember they had the grassy terrain up, and they went for Earthquake, and it just did like no damage, which allowed for a KO and everything. So, all right, next we got the Vero Beach Volcarona. Vero Beach coming back strong at the end, able to squeak into the playoffs as the number 9 seed in the South Division. So what are your thoughts on Ed and Vero Beach? They were also tied with Boston for the highest strength of schedules. So they had a very tough schedule.
They did. I love the changes they made. I will definitely say that, because I played them at 2 different points in this season. And I know we're not talking playoffs yet, but Yeah. Do we already did the people on the podcast already know at least the first 2 rounds of that playoffs? Oh yeah, because you posted on Facebook.
Yeah,
you posted on YouTube. I'm sorry, you did.
Yeah.
My match against him. So we had an amazing match, I will say, in this season. It was probably the closest and like most nail biting match that I had this whole season was against Vero in the playoffs. I like the new team now. I think it's good enough to be a B team, even though they did get into the playoffs. I think it was definitely higher than C. They made a lot of good changes. It wasn't all Steel. Like when I first played them, they were Steel City with Yalga, Melmetal, Metagross. So it was just like, oh, cool, I'm going to ruin this team. Like, definitely made some really, really good changes. I'd say definitely moved them up to a B.
Where do you like them in B? Because
higher than Dragapult at least. I don't know about Black City. What are your thoughts? Higher or lower than Black City?
I almost want to say higher than Black City, just because I think the changes that they made can counter what Black City was doing.
I'm glad you said it, because that was where my head was at. Because I think Black City, as good as their record was and everything, their team was just that one note hyper aggression. Where Vero had a lot more like, we've got some bulk, we've got some hyper aggression, we've got bulky sweepers. I think it was a better mix of of Pokemon.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, especially by the end when they picked up like Grimmsnarl, and I think they got like Dust Noir, so they could do like some
Calyrex
Super
Shadow, I
Pressure.
think, was the big one.
Yeah, that was a big
Which
one
they
at the
got
end.
from Black City, hilariously enough. Since we're talking about the two.
I think that was like a solid trade between the two of them because Black City needed bulk, so Dialga can be pretty bulky thanks to its typing, and Barrow needed speed and power.
Oh, I agree.
So,
and they needed to get rid of a steel type. So that was huge. I agree.
All right, winding it down here. Last couple teams, we got the Waco Scissors. Waco, this team was cursed all season. They smacked down Denver week 1, and then they choke away. They could have given Oklahoma a loss in the second week. Do you remember that match, Anthony?
I don't remember that match.
Okay, so this was the match. Waco was up 6 Pokemon to 2. Oklahoma was down to only Komao and Rillaboom. They had Komao out. Waco had their Kieran Black. Kieran Black goes for that freaking 2-turn move. Like you got to recharge after it. Why is that even on their set? I don't know. So they knock something out that allows Komao to get in. It goes for like a iron defense
or iron.
It was an iron defense body press set. So he goes for iron defense. The
body press. Yeah.
The Pokemon has to recharge. Body presses knocks out. Okay, you still got 5 Pokemon left. One of those Pokemon is Galarian Rapidash. Maybe you should send in this Pokemon that quadruple resist fighting and can knock out Komao with 1 hit.
And has 4 times Fairy.
Yeah, with Play Rough. No, he goes into, I don't even remember. Basically, he threw away every Pokemon. Now, by this point, Komo's gone up to +6 because he's been able to get other, because it was leftovers, and he was able to get other iron defenses. Finally, he sends out Rapidash when he's down to like 2 Pokemon left. Again, eventually, he's finally up to +6. The Play Rough is this close to KO, but it can't. Like, it still does like 75%, gets him into like the red or low yellow. I don't remember, but can't KO him now because he's at +6. Body press, 4-time resisted, but at +6, it KOs Rapidash.
It's gonna ruin him,
and then that was the game. And from there, he lost a bunch, but he was able to pick up a win against the LA Kinglers at the end. So I know I kind of like just ranted about one match, but
here's the thing. Okay. So, like, here is the question I have. Like, again, it comes up down to, like, are we talking team?
Yeah, no, we're talking
coach,
team.
Or are we talking
he didn't
team?
make any changes, so we had him as a team. He made no changes. So, are his no changes comparable to the teams that made changes?
Yeah, I would say I think he's at least moving down to a B. And if we're going to take a schedule into it, if we're going to take, again, he had a difficult schedule.
He did have a difficult schedule.
He had a more difficult schedule. I think that's defensible. And like, I don't know. I'm gonna leave this one for you on this one because, like, I don't want to say like schedule's gonna or like coaching's gonna bring him down to C unless you feel like that's an agreement. But like team wise, I still think it's like
I still think he has a solid team. Yeah.
That's like the hard part. It's like like team wise, it's a B.
Just to make this look a little more flowy, I want to put him as a high C.
That's fine with me. I was just gonna say that. I was like, "There's only Charm City and C, and he's looking lonely."
Just because there has to be like a gatekeeper, right? There has to be like, okay, this is like next thing. Yeah, I think his team was good. There was just some unfortunate circumstances that ended that up, and he did have a very tough schedule. All right, the last team, the Worcester Delibirds, they ended up 3-5. They also had a very tough schedule, a 1.46. That was like the 3rd toughest of the entire season, and they actually didn't do too bad. Their adjusted is a 1.43. So even though they were 3-5, their adjusted was only slightly lower. So what are your thoughts on Worcester here? We had them as an A rank as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, they had a tough schedule. I still like the team. You know what I mean? Like, still looking at this, like, there are some good Pokemon here.
Oh yeah, yeah, I like the team.
I like the team. So I mean, again, are we gonna, because they're 3 and 5, are we putting them in B, or are we saying they can stay in A because they had a good team? Comp.
Do I think they're A worthy?
Like that's kind of the question, I guess. And
I can definitely agree with B.
Maybe like, but like below Bureau, above Black.
I think below Black.
Black Steady, Zekrom. Yeah, let's do that. I like that. Feeling that.
Right here.
Works for me.
Yeah, because I think their overall team was better than the Dragapults. I think they could have changed a couple of their like lower tiers, maybe tried to like figure out some trades or something. But
yeah, I'm not crazy about some of them, but again, like I like a lot of their, I like Tentacruel as a wall. I'm noticing a lot of bulk.
Yeah,
I guess like maybe too much bulk would be like the biggest like thing I would say, because like Tentacruel, Glaring, Wheezing, Hitmontop can be like bulky, Gigalith. That's a lot of.
But then you got something like a Scarf Flagon, and you got Zapdos, and you got Mewtwo.
And Mewtwo, hits like a truck.
Yeah, and so you got like Pokemon who can be both special as like Zapdos and Mewtwo, and then you got physical Entei and
yeah.
Flagon.
I think
So
we're talking
it's a
ourselves into
solid
that
team.
B. Solid B. Not terrible, but not like amazing.
Yeah. All right. So, do we want to make any change to this, Anthony? Are you happy with this?
Looking at it, I feel bad there's not another one in C for more balance.
Yeah.
But like other than that, like, no, I think it's fine.
All right. So, do we want to take a look at like the differences here?
Sure.
See,
let's
like,
do
let's
do the side by side.
Down. Yeah. Let's see. All right. So again, this is the first one. So Denver and Oklahoma, they both stayed in S.
Mm-hmm. You and I traded places.
Yep. We swapped. The other A teams all went down. Worcester went down a rank. Waco went down 2 ranks. Driftvale went down a rank. So what teams moved up? We had Lavender Town make a big jump.
Yeah.
We had PSG make a big jump. Those were the only other 2 A teams.
Huge drop in LA.
Yeah,
Black
big
City,
drop on
same,
LA.
Tokyo.
The other 2 D teams, we kind of thought, they were who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook.
Sorry, guys.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean,
I think we were pretty. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna pat us on the
not
full,
bad.
I think we, and again,
above average.
Again, if we're gonna talk like when we didn't know these things when we the trades, I think this shows. I think the big thing it shows is how important, and I think we said this in the first ranking. You know what I mean? Like, how big just changing 1, 2 Pokemon, how much that can really influence how well a team does and how high they move up and down on the rankings. I mean, again, Lavender Town, looking at that initial team, terrible team. Looking at it, once they pick up Barraskewda and Mamoswine, amazing team, great team, huge
just a couple
difference.
Changes. Yep.
Yeah, again, and Ludicolo too, but in a few other ones, just a few changes here and there was able to kind of raise up some teams. Vero Beach, few changes raised them up.
And PSG didn't really make any changes, but they just kind of showed how solid their core was. So yeah, when you look at their full 10 Pokemon, you're like, okay, this is kind of weak. This really
what are
doesn't
you
measure
doing with this? Yeah.
But then it's like, okay, I'm just bringing the same 5 or 6 every week, and can you stop me? No. Okay, it doesn't matter about the other 4.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think that kind of again shows how important the trades are. I don't know. Next season, are we going to keep the same one we did this season before for free agent trading? That's the big question.
Yeah, I mean that'll be up to the rules committee
the new ERC.
I actually kind of like this one because it put a lot more weight.
It did
on the free agent picks.
It did.
I can only get 1 from the A tier. I gotta make sure it's the one that I want. Not you can't get one and then a couple weeks later get one.
I'm not gonna lie. I liked the season before though, kind of having like you can kind of play with your team a little bit more. I found like that was kind
you
of the
can like
fun part.
swap C tiers a lot the other way. Like every week trade like a C or B tier.
Yeah. So I mean, definitely perks to both. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. I didn't mind.
It's up to the new ERC. No, it wasn't that bad.
I thought it was.
I mean, I only think I made 2 trades the whole season anyway. So
I think I used everything but my A pick. I kept Rotom. So
I mean, Rotom's a hell of a Pokemon, so it seems fun.
Yeah, it did all right. All right. So now we're going to talk a little bit of playoffs. So with the playoffs now, we're in the second round. So we had the
quarterfinals, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. Quarterfinals. But you made it out of the play-in game, as well as Lavender Town made it. So I guess we'll just start with your game because you were going up against the number 1 seed, Anthony. You were going up against the Oklahoma Thundurus, the undefeated 8-0.
Smoke showed me earlier in the season too.
Yeah,
like, as said previously.
Smoke showed everybody. Let's be honest. But
I mean, that's fair.
Take a few minutes. Do you need to take a deep breath? Do you need like the Semi to go there and loosen you up a little bit?
He was right next to me, watching me freak out. So spoiler. I got it.
He got it. And you know what that means, boys. The Boston Braviers are still the only team to ever go undefeated. Woo! I'm going to record some poppin' champagne later. But anyway, okay, continue. It's your moment.
Anyways. No, I feel really bad, to be brutally honest. Because, anyone who watched the vlog, because I know the vlog got posted.
Yeah, I'll link it down. I'll link it down below too, because he's not posting it on YouTube. So I'll link it down below for people to watch.
So Oklahoma was streaming, having a good time, and didn't had selected his 6. Watched him select all 6 of his Pokemon, but never hit done before the timer went down off. So unfortunately, it led the way they were in the party.
Chat distracted him.
He did get distracted.
I've had that happen before.
That's the risk of streaming, I suppose. So unfortunately he led the wrong Pokemon, which really honestly set him up for disaster. So I ended up beating him 4-0. Just a lot of rough plays just because he led Rillaboom. He wanted to lead Starmie.
Do you feel like that really would have turned around? So let's say he had led Starmie and you led Torkoal. What would be your thought process there on that first turn?
So here's the thing. Like here's the part where I think he's slightly wrong, because he's like talking on the stream. He's saying, "Well, I would have decimated the Torkoal, and then I would have."
Yeah. Well, he was going to go for Meteor Beam, and he was running Power Herbs.
But I wouldn't have stayed in on Torkoal, even because I assume Starmie, has something for it. And again, I know it has Rapid Spin, so I'm not going to set up rocks in its face for me to just get spun on. And I'm not a special offensive wall, and I need Torkoal around. So, like, I didn't think I was going to stay in. And, we might play, we were talking after the match, and he wants to see if we can play the match again with the right lead, and just not to obviously change the league, like to just like kind of see how it play out. But again, like, I probably wasn't going to stay in, on that. I was going to switch Alcremie, and I don't know if Alcremie takes, but Alcremie is literally, I only brought Alcremie just for, like, Starmie and Suicune. So, like, I mean, I don't care if I lose it.
I'm going to look that up real quick.
I didn't calc that, but I'm sure we could calc it. Alcremie is, 252 special defense. So, at least the one I run. So, I don't know if it would have changed that much. I mean, it definitely sets them up better. I don't get rocks off right away. But I mean, the biggest thing is I think the problem of what his kind of theory is on that is that, I know how to use Groudon better than the last time when we battled. Yeah. And I lost Groudon early, and Groudon was my big, like, fuck over Ho-Oh Pokemon. And I lost Groudon, like, first move.
So for Alcremie, you said you were running max special defense. Were you running max HP?
Yep, 252, 252.
Yeah, so even after the +1 boost, Meteor Beam would do 33 to 40%.
Which El Creamy eats for breakfast and
Yeah.
recovers. Yeah.
A Psyshock after would secure the KO.
He had psychic.
Because he had psychic, so yeah, so that probably wouldn't have done it because so you could
he hit El
recovered
Creamy with a
spam from there. Yeah.
He hit El Creamy with a psychic early in the match, and it did like nothing in that match.
Yeah.
So I know El Creamy could easily have lived it. So that's
plus one special attack psychic if he's running like max, timid of course, would do 38 to 45%. So yeah, you would be able to recover spam. I mean, you would kind of be locked into recover, but you know,
again, that's until he switches out Starmie, but you know, but yeah, so I don't think it changes as much. And like I said, you know, I think the reason why he beat me so bad season, you know, in the first game we played in the season is just because Groudon got taken out in 2 seconds by Thundurus. I think his Ho-Oh isn't as scary to me with Groudon because Groudon eats up, even in the sun, eats up everything it does and kills it one shot with Stone Edge. So like, I just don't think it's. And Ho-Oh was like the big problem. You know, I have a Pokemon for literally every one of his other Pokemon.
Yeah. Like, Ho-Oh was his big check to like your team other than Groudon. So yeah, he needed that's why he needed to get those rocks out. So
yeah, because even Thundurus, like, you know, if you do the math, my Venusaur, if I have rocks up and he gets on Thundurus, like it one shots Thundurus, you know, pretty easily in the sun, you know. And sure, if he sets up which he did in the match, he sets up rain, I just kill it in response, you know. So great, you have the rain up, but I killed it, and that was the only other big threat. Yeah. So honestly, like I think he kind of got stuck on that and thinking that was what was gonna win him the game. I like, not to be a jerk, I just don't think that was the only, like, I didn't think he was gonna. I think he had a little bit of a rougher matchup than he thinks, because I wouldn't have stayed in with Torkoal on that. But you know, there's no way to know. I mean, we're gonna play it out, but again, we still, even that, we already have knowledge, so it's like.
Yeah, that's tough because he wasn't like expecting like your Thunder Waves and stuff from your Groudon, so you know, that's like something he could like be playing around a little bit more. But anyway, so congrats on knocking
David
off
has
the
defeated Goliath. Either way.
Yeah. And I'm happy about that. Again, we'll be recording a short video of me getting showered with champagne a la the 76 Dolphins. Again, a reference that goes over Anthony's head. So,
sure.
Yes.
Were you at SeaWorld? Were they at SeaWorld?
Yeah, they might have gone to SeaWorld after, you know, did Disney World. The, you know.
I only know the Dolphins because I've watched Ace Ventura enough times, so I got that one.
They're the only football team to ever go, like, perfect, like, win every game and win the Super Bowl and everything, so.
We came close. I watched that Super Bowl when we lost.
That might have been why we lost, Anthony, because you were watching it. No, JK.
I watched when we won too.
The other matches, we had PSG taking on Laventtown Gengars. Now, again, in the last week of the regular season, Laventtown beat PSG, giving them their first loss of the season. So
pretty handily too.
Yeah, pretty handily. I think 4 Pokemon remaining, something like that. So in this one, got flip-flopped around.
Boom.
You know, PSG comes back. They made a change. They brought Lantern this time instead of Decidueye. Lantern didn't seem to do too much for them, but you know, it was a change. Lantern can be pretty tricky with. I'm surprised they didn't have Water Absorb on it, though. They didn't have Water Absorb. They had Volt Absorb, which I thought was surprising.
I was talking to Alex afterwards. I think it was to bait the Thunder from Kyogre.
Yeah, but he got hit with the Origin Pulse first, so you know it's not Water Absorb.
Yeah. And
then he goes for the Thunder, and I'm like, there's only Alex, 2 abilities this man would have. He's not going to have Illuminate. You know? Anyway.
Illuminate.
Yes. Anyway. But, so PSG continues on to the semifinals. Really getting their revenge, I guess. And Laventtown, you know, great first season with the Society. I'm excited to see what Alex does in future seasons. But yeah, PSG continuing on. So we got 1 top seed still moving on, at least. We'll see if we have more. Any last thoughts on that matchup, Anthony?
Nah. good for PSG. Congrats, making it on. Alex, good run. Good job making your team significantly better than it was in the beginning. I think, and I'm excited to see what he can do in doubles. Alex is, way more trained in doubles than singles. So I'm excited to see what he can do next season. And I'd give him a lot of ribbing, but he's one of my best friends. So
you should see if he wants to be on the rules committee then, if he knows some stuff about doubles.
I'll give him a shout for that.
I got a few people who want to be in.
Nice.
So we'll see. And I will say, Anthony, that since you only were in for one season, I am going to allow you to come back for a second season. So,
Me?
Spoiler alert there. Yeah. I'm trying to get rid of the people who have been sitting on this couch for too long. You know what I mean? Like, your butt imprints in the...
I'm still a newbie. I'm still new.
All right. The next one, we'll go over my match. So, number 5 seed Boston Braviers going up against the number 4 seed Black City Zekrom. And I know, like, we talked about the tier list sort of thing and S, and we gave Black City a B. But honestly, I got a little bit of a chip on my shoulder against Black City because they are the only team in the entire league who has ever beat me multiple times. They beat me in both Season 1 and Season 2. So when I go up against them, I'm like, I can't let this man beat
I got to
me
show him
again. Yeah, so needless to say, he kind of brought what I was expecting him. He didn't bring Crobat, which I think kind of backfired against him, and I'll get to that.
He loves that Crobat.
Yeah, he brought Xatu instead, which I did think he might bring. He does. He never brought it this entire season, the regular season.
I remember you talking about that.
But he likes Xatu.
Magic
Bounce. He does like Xatu for screens and Magic Bounce and stuff. But so my strategy was basically going to be like lead Stack Attacka, and Stack Attacka does pretty good against a lot of his stuff. The only thing he wasn't going to do good against was Dialga, and what does he lead off with? He leads off with Dialga. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to expect the Earth Power. So I'm like, okay, do I want to switch into Rotom or do I want to switch into Landorus here? I'm like, okay, I don't really need Rotom. Like, the item I put on Rotom was Quick Claw because his team is so fast. And I was like, I don't know, like, really what I need Rotom for, but I'll just throw Quick Claw on him because it might get, like, a cheeky thing that he wasn't expecting. So, anyway, so I go into Rotom. Luckily, he does go for the Earth Power instead of something like a Draco Meteor or a Roar of Time or something. So I get a free turn there, And basically, I made some really good switches around his Dialga. His Dialga was being a pain to me. I made some good switches. Once it tried to start going for Dragon moves, I was able to get free turns with Gardevoir, switching in and doing stuff. And this was the surprising thing. Again, this is why I was saying that I thought Crobat would have been really helpful for his team. You look at his team, Anthony, it's very fast.
Yes, right. I know.
I was outspeeding stuff. Like my Rotom, yes, it is timid, but Rotom only has 86 speed. It's not the fastest thing, which is why you usually see it with something like a Choice Scarf. Again, I was putting Quick Claw on this. It only activated once, didn't even really matter when it activated. But I was just outspeeding his base stuff. Now, he did run his Dialga bulkier, so that is why that happened.
I mean, Dialga tends to be a bulkier guy.
I outsped his Darmanitan, which was very surprising with my Rotom.
I don't even know Darmanitan speed here. Is it 90?
I think it's like 90. I think it's like high 90.
That's weird.
Let me check. 95.
Wow.
So, yeah, so he wasn't running like speed on that. So I was able to just Hydro Pump it. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to sack off Rotom here because it was like in the yellow at that point. I was like, I'll sack it off to whatever, and I just got another KO. So ended up 5 Pokemon remaining in that. Had to sacrifice, well, not sacrifice, but he final gambited Gardevoir with his Acceldor. So, a 1-for-1 there. I'll take that. And then I had Scarf Landorus at the end against his Zeraora. So pretty simple.
That'll do it. That'll do it.
Yeah, so we refuse to lose again to Black City, and we move on to the semifinals where we will be facing you, Anthony. So looking forward to that. Yep.
Yeah, can't cheeky me out with Zeraora anymore.
Yeah, Zoroark.
Zoroark, that one, whatever.
I get them
Whatever.
confused all the time. When I type them out, I gotta look at it a second time just to make sure.
They're so close in names. I know what I'm talking about. The dark type. Illusion type.
One's a dog, one's a cat. Like,
Close
or a
enough.
fox and a cat.
Foxy.
And the last quarterfinal matchup, we don't have a lot of information on this one because it just happened as we're on here on the podcast.
Breaking news.
Yeah, breaking news. Flashing lights. Anyway, again, we referenced this earlier in the podcast. In the last week of the season, the Denver Ninetales went up against Tokyo Togekiss. Winner of that match was going to win the division. Denver ends up winning, so they get the division. They get the number 3 seed. But thanks to Tokyo doing so well earlier in the season, they still get in with the number 6 seed. So they end up playing against each other again in the first round of the playoffs. And this time, Tokyo wins it. They pretty handily, from what I know. Again, I don't have the exact numbers. From what I understand, it's pretty handily. So we'll get that recording up in the next day or two for everybody. But Tokyo gets the revenge. They move on. They'll be taking on PSG. So
yeah, and as noted before we got on the line, for the viewers, every single one of the teams that won this week, except for obviously you.
Yeah, because I didn't play
Boston,
Black City earlier.
You didn't play, yeah, but anyone who played a team that they played earlier actually reversed the win. I beat Oklahoma, Lavender lost to PSG, and Denver lost to Tokyo. So interesting. Let's hope the flips keep coming. Hint, hint.
God, I hope not. Actually, I don't mind. Now that Trevor's lost, I don't mind if I lose because now I don't have to
I'm
try to beat him. So anyway, but yeah, and also there were 3 upsets seed wise. You,
that's true.
Me, and Danielle Tokyo. So yeah, a lot of upsets this round. Looking forward to the semi-finals. So I know who you think will win in our match, Anthony. So I won't talk about that. But who do you give on PSG and Tokyo?
PSG and Tokyo. I really want to see if I'm gonna give an opinion like that, I want to do an in-depth
I just think Weavile looks real scary.
Weavile looks real. I was just thinking Weavile has been really MVP, and Rayquaza is yikes to that. Yeah. I mean, don't let Sandaconda do its thing to let Excadrill go to town. But even still, maybe
I wonder. Do you think PSG will ever bring that little Aurorus and Arctozolt?
Do it.
I don't know.
Why warning. Not? There's
why
no
not?
Business like no business. No. No. Yeah, I think if we're gonna make a prediction, I'll say I'm gonna give it to PSG. If we're gonna guess, they had a very good run. Yveltal is a really good Pokemon. Yeah, we'll see.
Yes, we will see, and we'll talk about that on next week's podcast. Thanks everybody for watching. Anthony, do you have any last words for our viewers?
Go Pittsburgh.
Go Boston. Listen, comment down below. We said who we think will win Tokyo and PSG. Comment down below who will win, Pittsburgh or Boston. All right. Let us know in the comments down below. Again, make sure that you like this video. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Make sure you watch the vlog or the VOD, whatever you call it, for Pittsburgh and Oklahoma. That'll bring you to Twitch to watch that. And make sure you vote for the MVP for this season because we'll announce that on next week's podcast as well. And as always, stay classy, society.